Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2024 World Chess Championship match between the champion from China, Ding Liren, and the challenger from India, D. Gukesh, or Gukesh D, or Damaraju Gukesh, or Gukesh Damaraju, or just Gukesh. Because anytime your name could just be one name and everybody knows who you are, that's epic stuff. Folks, this is the ninth game. And after today, they will take their third break of the match. The match is tied 4-4. But in games 8 and 7, Gukesh was putting on a lot of pressure. So let's see if he would be able to do it today. And also today, he played an opening for the first time in this match, which for any Harry Potter fans out there, you'll remember in Half-Blood Prince, when Harry uses Sectum Sempra, I think that's how you say it, on Snape, and Snape walks up to him and goes, "You dare use my spells against me, Potter?" Well, that's what happened today. So here we go. Gukesh, in the last two games, and really throughout the whole match with White, has been putting pressure. Has been putting some pressure. Yesterday, he even put pressure with the black pieces. So he's obviously playing himself into form. Also, there was a report I saw on socials. It might have been from Mike Klein from chess.com. It might have been, I think that was him, but it could have been somebody else, who said that Ding was coughing a lot today, which is big news. I don't find it to be as big news as, oh my God, he ate an ice cream, which I think has been... Is anybody, like, tired of all those headlines of the World Championship? Like, Ding got his ice cream, oh my God, I can't. But the coughing is really bad, because if Ding is sick, that's gonna obviously, that's you know, it's good he has a day of rest tomorrow, because they have a full week to play left. So, Gukesh plays d4, all right? He played everything so far in the match. E4 has not gone well. Ding showed up with the French defense ready to rock and roll. Gukesh did play knight f3 and did manage to put some pressure. He played d4 in the first game that he won. And this time we have d4, knight f6, c4, e6. And here, instead of playing knight f3, d5, and then that's how the first game went, g3. So Gukesh plays the Catalan. Now, if you know anything about Ding Liren, he made his career playing the Catalan. He played the Catalan before it was cool. He played the Catalan when the engine lines weren't, you know, all over the place and had their hands on everything. G3 is a very interesting move order too. Like, I don't know why Gukesh did not go here. There are some lines where the pawn on G3 before the knight on F3 makes sense. Namely, there are some lines with DC4, Queen A4 check, Bishop D7, and sometimes if Black plays this wrong, not wrong, but you know, Fabiano Caruana once played a Knight to H3 Catalan. So just to kind of show you, like, Fabiano Caruana once played like this, not exactly, but it was against Vishy Anand, probably at the Olympiad, like, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, G3 just kind of comes with some different points. But there is right now a variation against the Catalan, which at the top level is just a game killer. It's a bit of a strong statement, but everybody's playing it, and it's Bishop B4 check, followed by Bishop 2E7. See, historically, what would happen in the Catalan is you would get a position with Bishop E7, Bishop G2, castle, castle. Now, Black would take, this is the open Catalan, Queen A4 and Queen C2 are the two ways to win the pawn back. Knight E5 is extremely boring. White gets nothing there. But now you can play this, force the bishop out, and then go back to E7. You can also do it after having played D5. Yeah, it's actually, if you remember my match against Pia Kramling, I played this against her. I played bishop before, bishop back to E7. We had a really complicated game. It was the last classical game that we played. And yeah, I didn't even know much about the system, but Black gets just a very, very solid game. And, you know, you can play C6, which is what he does. And this is called the closed Catalan. You set up your triangle defense and you say, come get me. The thing is, if you don't engage with a Catalan player, it honestly will be better for you. Same policy as being on a New York City subway. Crazy person yells at you, you see some antics, you don't make eye contact, all right? It's like Pokemon. You make eye contact, you fight. That's how it works. You just pretend it doesn't exist, all right? Like all of your childhood traumas from everybody arguing and beefing in the family. But, we just had Thanksgiving here, and Christmas holidays are coming up. So, we're going to have to see our folks. Fortunately or unfortunately for some of us. White plays queen c2, defending the pawn on c4. This is exactly how you're supposed to play the position. And then you're going to put the rook on d1. And this is exactly how my game against Pia Kramling went. And then here, the modern main line is a5. So black does not touch the pawn on b7. Black plays a5. White moves the bishop to the f4 square. Sometimes black even plays knight h5 and goes after the bishop. But instead of knight h5, you can also just kind of wait. Like you can play h6, you can play a4. After knight c3, you can take on c4. So now black either chooses a5 or b6. Both have been played a lot. And like I said, this line for black is ultra reliable. If you're a high-level player watching this right now and you want a good line against the Catalan, this is it right here. Ding plays b6 because, yeah, very good line as well. He's going to go bishop b7, maybe a5, bishop a6. And now Gukesh shows why he played this. He shows his original idea, which is bishop c3. Now, all throughout the Catalan, there are moments like this. Rather than moving the bishop to the active diagonal, you move it to a slightly more strange square, but it's fine. Also, instead of b3 and bishop f4, which make up about 99% of the position, or knight a5 or moving the a-pawn, Gukesh plays this move, which has been played, I think, less than 10 times, maybe just about 10 times. And obviously, he's going to become the highest-rated player to play it, I believe. Although, and now we see the idea. Knight bd2 e4. So you support your center. Taking here is possible by black, but then white goes here, gets the Catalan bishop moving. Black does this, just simply loses the game. That's really not going to work. Ding now spends 20 minutes. It's typical Ding stuff. Taking his time in the opening, just moving the bishop. He was probably debating also bishop a6, which immediately attacks the pawn. Decides to play it solid. Gukesh plays knight d2, defending his pawn, and Ding plays queen c7. So almost all of Ding's pieces are now off the back rank. The rooks are going to join the party to b8, c8, d8, e8. He's going to ultimately decide. And white makes his final improving move. And the thing about the closed Catalan is, ultimately, it's equal everywhere. Like, ultimately, it's not a position where you can get an advantage with white, but it's where you can get a game sometimes. And the rook starts coming, and obviously, Ding is a move behind because he wasted time, but the position's so solid, it doesn't really matter. Now Gukesh has to think on his own, and he plays the best plan, b4. That's kind of the point. That's why the bishop is on c3, because if you move it to the f4 square, it's nice, but then, you don't really get to play b4 because this bishop is here, so white usually plays b3, so Gukesh shows the idea of the entire position and plays the move b4. Now Ding has another big decision to make, and here I completely understand why he would take his time, because it looks like he can do anything. He can wait and basically do nothing, but if he does, suddenly he gets very restricted. The bishop is blocked, the knight is blocked, the bishop is blocked, and if you take, and white actually here has a very considerable advantage. So, what do you do in this position? Ding is not going to let himself be bullied. He thinks... And also, he's not going to play dc4 because this transition is just going to get white and knight closer to the middle. There's absolutely no point to do this. It just helps white. Ding fights back. In the closed Catalan, if black can successfully pull off both pawns in the center, probably black is going to equalize. Probably black is going to sort of kill off anything that white had going for him. And now you've got to start thinking about the fact that, like, well, can I take? 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 Can he take? Will he take? Is he going to go that way? Should I take and then take? Or 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 should I not take? The thing is, you can take one pawn and the other pawn like a bunch of different ways. And also, you can not capture anything. Gukesh now thinks and takes with the b pawn. That's obviously the idea. So we still have symmetry. Now the b pawns are just off the board. And now he can take dc or cd, or cd and then dc, or take nothing, and he plays queen b2. So this is Gukesh's big thought out of the opening, 16 minutes, and it's very clear that for the first time in a while, the opening is not a success. He played the Catalan against the Catalan god, and he got nothing. He did not get any sort of advantage, but the position is still, it's still very playable. Now Ding plays knight b6. and he's down 40 minutes on the clock, which we've seen a lot in this match, but it's always scary. He's now spent 17 minutes on 3 different moves, 18 minutes. Again, it's mostly because he can take on d4, but that's not very good because that just helps white. He can play rook b8. I imagine then Gukesh wanted to put the queen in the corner, which looks really stupid, but it's also a hidden idea of Gukesh's entire opening concept. So, you know, he goes here, Ding, and the purpose of this move is that he wants to play knight a4, but also he just wants to take the pawn on c4. And to be honest with you, this actually changes white's entire game plan. White now has to move the bishop to a5, putting pressure on the knight, but now the bishop is not on the diagonal, where it might have been a lot stronger. Now Ding forces the action and plays d takes c4. But this is kind of deranged. Like, this is really, like, deranged. Not only does he allow himself to get pinned, he brings Gukesh's knight forward into the game to pin him. I mean, this is some Pulp Fiction stuff. Ding is like, so do it. Oh, you got a gun? All right, shoot it. Do it. Do something about it. It's crazy. And not only that, then Ding, in this position, he can take, and then the queen is hanging, and that queen's hanging. It's crazy. Rook c4, queen a5, queen b7. Now Ding gives up his bishop for the knight, absolutely allowing the white bishop to just basically sit and preside over the game. But Gukesh now has to take here, because if Gukesh had taken here, the bishop is gone. So knight c4 hits the queen, and this hits this. That's the whole point. So Ding gets rid of his bishop, which is a pretty nice idea. And after bishop b6, a b6, bishop f3, he just plays rook a6. This is very professional, but it actually does grant Gukesh a pretty pleasant position. And here, Gukesh, instead of queen b5, could have played something like e3, right? Or knight e5, and just sort of kept the tension and kept the game going. But he sort of forces the issue. He gives up the pawn on a2, right? He could have played, like I said, he could have just sort of slow played it. Probably didn't like something after cd4. He could have then played also knight e5, trying to put the knight on c6. This is probably the most ambitious move. And then after something like a bishop f8, e3, yeah, I mean, white just has a typical Catalan game. I can see Magnus Carlsen, because obviously he played in the World Championships, but also he's played Catalans a million times. I can see him trying to put pressure here for a long time. You know, you try to reposition the bishop, etc. But rather than playing knight e5, Gukesh plays queen b5. What that does is attack the rook. It forces it down here. And I guess Gukesh just basically thought, this pawn is a huge weakness. I'm going to win the pawn. But Ding is a beast. And Ding had foreseen this. And here, maybe Gukesh thought something else was going to happen. Maybe he was calculating. But queen a7 is a very cold-blooded defensive move. Because now, you will use the a file for counterplay. This rook will go to b8. And this knight is out of place. Now, if you take on c5, I have rook takes d1, and rook back to a5. And the pawn on c5 is going to fall. So queen a7 might have been the move that, I don't know, maybe Gukesh overlooked it, maybe he underestimated it. But yeah, instead of rushing in with queen b5, knight e5, and Ding would have been under some pressure. But it's typical Catalan pressure. It's the pressure of the light squared bishop. It's the pressure, you know, on the queen side. It's, you know, it's not pressure that's like game-changing or groundbreaking, but it's, I mean, it's what the Catalan is all about. And here, you know, it was sort of the moment that maybe Ding, instead of playing bishop takes f3, could have went for this sequence. But this is not easy to play. This is also not an easy sequence. You get white in here, and it's a little bit scary. So we enter the sequence. D takes c5. And I've been saying it every single recap. Right here is where I woke up. And then Gukesh hung his queen. No. Yeah, it's sort of bad news for Gukesh when I wake up. But now we sort of see the problem. We see the fact that white is just stuck. White's just stuck. White doesn't have any move here. Why? Because the threat for black is simply to take the pawn. And then take the knight, because he's got everybody staring at it. And I mean, if you get out, then it's rook b1, obviously. So the threat is bishop c5 and to take the knight. And there's nothing that white can do. Nothing. Queen b5. Here, Ding's move gets a brilliant by game review because it wants to make him feel better. Because I know, he knows he's been coughing. And there is no back rank checkmate here. For those of you inclined to look at this, this looks like back rank checkmate. But it's one of those rare cases where the check, if you take it, is mate. But knight e8. And yeah, you're not going to checkmate anybody here because everything is defended. But it is a bit sneaky, and now the queen is threatened. But yeah, no. Queen c5, queen b6, rook b6. And the players could agree to a draw here. Obviously, if you're playing this position, you should just play it. Even with the knight. You never know when your opponent will blunder a back rank checkmate. Rook c6 takes. They have to make 40 moves. It's the rule. So they just improve their position. They play some moves. And actually, something very strange was happening here. Like, Gukesh went for this. So he, you know, had a pawn structure that was completely intact, but ended up here, which, let me tell you right now, this position as an intermediate player is totally losable for white, because your pawns are far apart, and, you know, the opponent might blunder, and suddenly you're losing a pawn for no reason. Even this is a draw, but, yeah, you know, he stays close, and, you know, you would think king f5, but the second the king comes forward, there's this. It's not a check, take, and this is a draw because h-pawn. Doesn't even matter if the pawn was on like h2 and the rook was on h1. This is a draw, and the players don't even, you know, what they do here is they give up everything. It's very normal in chess to play until the kings are left on the board, naked, together. You know, chess is that kind of a game. And it's a draw again. This one was a big win for Ding. This was a win for many reasons. Not an actual win, but a win for many reasons. Ding now concludes the worst stretch of 3 games of this match. And I even include the one that he lost. That was just a maybe flash in the pan, but he was under significant pressure twice. And if he's feeling unwell, to get a rest day and such a chill game with the black pieces, he has been struggling with the black pieces over his with any game that wasn't d4. Yeah, it's a good sign. It's a good sign for Ding fans. It's now 4.5, and there's 5 games left, 3 of which Ding has the white pieces. If Ding's strategy is to take this to a rapid tiebreak because he feels like he's a more intuitive player and plays better faster, it's paying off because he's going to have to fend off 2 more white Gukesh games. And listen, Gukesh won a really nice game in d4 once, and this time he came with a very original idea, bishop c3. Not new, but definitely original. And yeah, he wasn't able to capitalize at all. Gukesh had his moment. You know, Ding almost let it get out of control here. I don't really know why Gukesh did not like knight e5. Probably just didn't like something in it. But overall, a big win, I would say, for Ding. And the match is tied 4.5. Tomorrow we have a rest day. And then we've got 3 more games, the 3 biggest games, you know. 10, 11, 12, and then after that, 2 more, and then potentially a tiebreak. Folks, if you made it this far, you know the drill. We got Walmart's, Gotham chessboards at Walmart's. And today, those of you that have ever gotten a course on the original platform on Chessly will get an email with some additional info about 2.0. We've got an email rollout for everybody. We're trying to keep everybody updated, and Chessly 2.0 launching in 8 days, which I'm going to go work on right now after this recap. So that's all. Get out of here.